Hey guys, what's going on? This week we're talking about anime convention, or just convention in general, sizes, and the different sizes between different conventions. There's large conventions, small conventions, and then there's medium conventions where it's kind of in the middle. And I just wanted to talk about the differences and similarities between the different sizes of conventions, because there are some differences, but they're not completely different either. So let's start with things that are the same about each convention, no matter what size they are, really. That's that you're gonna have panels, first of all. You're gonna have guests, even if there's not as many at smaller cons, there's gonna be some people there. Also, by guests, I mean like voice actors, maybe musical guests. Then you're also going to have cosplayers at every con you go to, so you can cosplay at every con no matter what size. You can go and see cosplayers no matter what size. I mean, at the end of the day, they're sort of the same because it's a convention. There's not really that much to it. You're just going there and hanging out with other fans, talking about the things you love. It's just a con. But there are a lot of differences as well that I don't know if everyone really has recognized. They may know them, but they might not have actually sat there and thought about them. And when you really know these differences, it makes going to a small con or a big con more enjoyable because you know what to expect out of that con. Like if you go to a big con, you've never been to a big con, you've only been to small cons, it's gonna feel very different. Before I get any more into that, let me tell you what these differences are. First of all, just the amount of people at the con. This is the most obvious one because, big con, small con. Big con's gonna have more people, small con's gonna have less people. So this is really obvious. Still, it makes a big difference because when you go to a big con, if you've never been to one, it can be really overwhelming if you've only been to small cons. I would honestly recommend, if you've only ever gone to small cons, try and go to a medium one before you go to a big one. Don't just jump up because it's a very different environment. It feels really different than a small con. And at a small con, one of the things I've noticed is that someone I watched on YouTube a long time ago, I don't really remember who it was, but it was back when I started getting into cons. I don't know the video, or I would link you to it, but I saw this video and they said that the difference between a big con and a small con is that at a big con, you'll maybe make like 5 or 10 friends. That's it. You honestly won't talk to that many people, which seems weird, but I'll get into that in a second. At a small con, you're gonna make hundreds of friends, which seems crazy because a small con there's less people, but when you're at a big con, everyone's kind of got something to do. They're always going somewhere, they're always kind of in a rush, and there's just a lot more to look at. You don't really have time to slow down and meet new people. That's not to say you're not going to, but I don't think you have time to meet as many or to really get to know them. You might meet people, but you may not talk to them that much. At a small con, where there's less people, there's less going on, you have more of a chance to, meet the same people over and over again. You'll see in the hallways and start to talk to them and create friendships, and then when you get back home, you may add them on Facebook or wherever you like to socialize. And it just feels like you get closer with people at small cons and you meet more people because you see the same people over and over again. Where at a big con, you may see someone one day, the next day you might not even see them at all because there's so many people there, they're just mixed in with the rest of the crowd. Something else that's different is just the events and panels in general. Like at a small con, there's gonna be less events, such as panels going on, but it's also gonna be easier to get into the panels. Where at a big con, there may be more events, like more high-profile voice actors, but when you go to their panel, if you don't get in line early, you might not even be able to get in because it fills up, so it's kind of a give and take there. Something else that's a little different is that at a big con, of course, like I said, there's a lot more people, so there's a lot more chances to see really, really creative cosplay. When you go to a big con, especially like a con that everyone knows is really big, a lot of people will debut new cosplay there that they haven't done before. Where at a small con, everyone's just kind of going to chill and maybe show off some cosplay, but it may not be the most creative. That's not to say there's never creative cosplay at small cons, because of course there is. But what I'm saying is that there's more creative cosplay at big cons because there's just more people. There's more chances for someone to come out with something that you find creative than at a small con, where there's not as many people, not as many chances for someone to have something creative. Something else that's pretty different between a small con and a big con is the dealer's room. A lot of small cons will have, obviously, a lot smaller dealer's room, but I like these small dealer's rooms sometimes. It's not nearly as packed. You actually have a chance to really look at everything, and it doesn't feel like you're being rushed because there's tons of people waiting to to look at what you're looking at. And there can be some really creative stuff in a dealer's room. I've seen things in small dealer's rooms that I didn't see in bigger dealer rooms that were just interesting. But the same goes for a big con. A bigger con will normally have a bigger dealer's room. Some of them are just an entire convention center is the dealer's room, and then the rest of the con takes place in a hotel. And that entire convention center dealer's room is just massive and overwhelming sometimes. And you could spend an entire day just in that dealer's room. If you do that, at the end of the day, I think the best way to look at a small con versus a big con is to consider a big con to be like what you would normally think of as a convention, where you're going and you're busy the entire time. It's hard, you never really find a chance to slow down much. You're always going from one panel to the next, or one photo shoot to the next, and even between those you're trying to find places to eat so you don't starve to death, taking pictures of cosplay, going to dances and things at night. There's all kinds of things to do at a big con, and you never really get a chance to just slow down. Where at a small con, you need to look at a small con as if it's a social con. Yes, it does still have panels, there are still voice actors and events and dances and things going on, but there's not as many. At a small con, maybe even in a smaller location normally, so you don't have as much ground to cover between, panel rooms and such. So when you're going to a small con, the best thing to do, if you've mostly been to big cons, so that you don't hate it, because I know a lot of people will go to big cons and then they expect those types of the same things out of all cons, and when they go to a small con they're kind of shocked because it's different. You need to look at it like it's a social convention. Yes, you're gonna do some of the same things, but you're gonna spend a lot of your time just meeting people and talking to different people that you don't know, and making friends. That's a big part of small cons, and if you can't accept that, then you're probably not gonna like small cons very much. Well guys, that's about it. That's the only real differences I could think of between a big con and a small con. They do feel different, but they're just conventions, so just go and have fun. Cosplay, do whatever you want, meet people. You don't have to stand by the rules that I just said of cons. If you want to meet tons of people at big cons, go out and try and meet tons of people. I'm just saying, I think it's easier at smaller cons. Personally, I like medium cons the best. A con that's not quite so small that there's nothing going on, but it's not so big that there's so many people and so many things to do that you get a little overwhelmed by it all. Medium cons are just pretty awesome. If you get a chance to go to a medium con, which a lot of cons are medium cons. Smaller cons and bigger cons are obviously the extremes of either side. So just enjoy those medium cons, and if you guys think I missed anything, let me know in the comments below. I tried to think of as much stuff as I could, but if I missed anything about a big con or a small con, the differences that you want to share, go ahead and drop it in the comments. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next week. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what I'm doing, please hit the subscribe button to see new videos having to do with gaming, anime, cosplay, and anime conventions every Sunday.